Um, Former Florida Gators signee Jaden Rashada has announced he's suing Billy Napier, Hugh Hathcock, and Marcus Castro Walker over that failed NIL deal. Fun times in Gator Nation.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And if you haven't seen yet, there's now a lawsuit where Florida is being sued by Jaden Rashada. If you don't remember, Jaden Rashada was initially committed to Miami, and then he flipped to Florida, and then he backed out or he requested his release from his national letter of intent. And then he went to Arizona State last year, and now he transferred to Georgia. And before we even talk about the lawsuit, it's funny that he transferred to Georgia, and then a few weeks later, he has officially filed a lawsuit against Billy Napier, Hugh Hathcock, and Marcus Castro Walker. Obviously not funny to file a lawsuit. It's funny the timing that he went to Georgia and did it. However, this is not something that he committed to Georgia and he was like, oh, they're my rival now? Let's get him. No, this is definitely something that's been in the works for a while. But if you haven't read the article yet, basically, Jaden Rashada, represented by Rusty Hardin, who, if I'm not mistaken, also represented many of the plaintiffs against Deshaun Watson, if I'm not mistaken. So with Rusty Hardin as his lawyer, has filed a lawsuit against Billy Napier, so Florida Gators head coach Billy Napier, Marcus Castro Walker, who used to be the director of NIL and player engagement for the Florida Gators and has been since dismissed, Hugh Hathcock, who many of us know as a booster, and Hugh Hathcock's company, Velocity Automotive, over that $13.85 million NIL deal that got him to commit to Florida initially. And I mean, look, I will be honest with you. I'm kind of just sick and tired of talking about Jaden Rashada. I am, but yeah, also again with the Georgia thing, yeah, he went to Kirby and Kirby was like, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. Why wouldn't he though? But I want to make this clear because I know that a lot of people are like, oh, Napier's cooked. Unless you can prove something, not gonna happen most likely. As far as because again, if Jaden Rashada can prove because the lawsuit alleges that Billy Napier was basically like, hey, if you sign, we'll give you $1 million. Like they'll wire it over right away. And so the lawsuit says that Billy Napier told Jaden Rashada that. Okay. If they can prove that, then Florida could theoretically get rid of Billy Napier without paying that buyout. I don't think you could do it without proving it because then then Florida would just open themselves up to a lawsuit against Billy Napier where he'd want the buyout money. So I think that for Florida, the only way this would lead to Billy Napier getting canned is if they can prove anything. And as Nick De La Torre said on 3, that Florida's a two-party consent state. So they can't have a recorded conversation here. Like they can't have video proof or audio recording proof here. All parties involved in private conversations must consent to that conversation being recorded. So even if they did have a conversation recorded of anything, Billy Napier would have had to know about that recording and agreed to being recorded in order for that to be usable in court. So court-wise, I unless they have something written or they have a lot of other recruits say, yeah, Billy Napier told me this as well, I don't see how this leads to anything happening with Billy Napier there. So for the people that are just like, oh, like now you can get out without the buyout, I don't think so. I think you need to be able to prove something. But yeah, again, this is something that's been going for a while. We know that the NCAA was looking into this in July, I believe it was last year that an article came out about them looking into it for quite some time, or the article came out later in the year about them looking into it in July. But man, this is just another step in the wild saga here. Jeremy Carpenter said, "What's going on? Suing on what grounds does he have to sue?" So basically, I could be mistaken in how I'm understanding this article, written by John Talty of CBS Sports. I could be mistaken here, but the way that I read it made it sound like he's not suing him for the 13.85 million. It more so made it sound like he's suing for the $9.5 million he lost from a different deal. Okay. So again, I could be wrong here. I'm not a lawyer at all, but from how I'm reading it, I also just On3 has more information there. Yeah. Okay. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. But sorry, I'm reading the On3 version, and they have the Gator Collective's attorney drafted the NIL contract, which, if I'm not mistaken, Darren Heitner, that Hathcock would wire monthly payments to the collective and ultimately to Rashada. And then it came down to the collective basically backing out of it. And we knew that part. There's a reason you read the article and you see Eddie Rojas's name, and Miami Twitter fans will bring up Eddie and a bunch of people will bring up Eddie. But Eddie's not named in this lawsuit for good reason. And this is something that we've talked about on the show since like the day that it happened was, hey, the Gator Collective decided like this was an absurd amount of money and they backed out of it. Like they canceled their contract. They terminated their contract because they were like, this is just bonkers to even attempt to try to do. So I want to make that one clear too. Like Gator Collective, no one from the Gator Collective here is named. It's not that kind of situation. But again, from my understanding, there's a couple of levels to this lawsuit also, because part of it is that he's suing. I have a list of all the charges that are being filed here. The lawsuit claims fraudulent misrepresentation and inducement, aiding and abetting fraud, civil conspiracy to commit fraud, negligent misrepresentation, tortious interference with a business relationship or contract, and aiding and abetting tortious interference. And if I'm not, yeah, we can't get away from this dude. We'll talk about that in a minute. Just the rest of this and what the lawsuit really, what it's even saying at this point. The article again. This is something that until it goes to court, we're not going to get all the information. Even then, I don't think it really gets to court. I think that this would be a case where both sides would just want to settle. Dude just wants his money that he was told to get. And also, I want to point that one out. I'm tired of talking about Jaden Rashada here for the most part. But at the same time, like if I was told I was going to get this life-changing amount of money and then I didn't, I'd be really pissed. And you would be too. Because this also isn't just like if it were a couple grand, I know a lot of us would be like, what the hell? No, like give me my money. I was told this. This is millions of dollars here that we're talking about. So I understand his side of it. but that's a different story, I guess. We will get back to talking about the Jaden Rashada article, lawsuit, all that fun stuff that we get here in Gator Nation. But first, quick word from a couple sponsors. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And if you're not hiring, but you're just on LinkedIn, which you should be, if you're not, your own fault. Okay. Just want to point that out. Like, it's not industry specific. You should be on LinkedIn. You can set that you're looking or open for the perfect role. Set it so that not everybody can see it. Only recruiters and other people in hiring can do that and see that. And you can do that. So you're not publicly broadcasting, hey, I want to leave my current spot, but people can see it. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire profile with confidence. That's like, you want to move there with confidence, right? You don't want to have to be suing someone a year and a half after things happened, right? You don't want to be doing that. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're just looking for extra guidance, you don't know much, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Securely link your brokerage account for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures that you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That's the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. I had like sent a message to the subtext group on Sunday, and I was like, hey, we should do a couple live streams this week. This is not what I meant. I want to make that clear. This is not what I was talking about. I was talking about just like fun to hang out live streams. Instead, we got this. But this is just wild. The Jaden Rashada lawsuit. Again, my understanding of it, because it doesn't, from what I saw, the article didn't specifically say. I'm just going to go and basically read the article at this point, as in read it while we're on here. But my understanding of it was not just, oh, you owed me $13.85 million, or you said you'd give me $13.85 million, so you're giving me that. My understanding of where it came from was also that it came from the damages acquired. So, or the damages that Jaden Rashada took on because of it. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, what damages? Well, the damages here were, first off, it's also that Jaden Rashada was owed $500,000 for signing, and then he didn't get that. And instead, he got the termination letter, which is, yeah, they allegedly offered him a $500,000 signing bonus. He signed the contract, and they didn't do what they said they do, because they canceled the contract instead. Which this is just going to be a bonkers time for the Florida. Like, this is going to be one of those times for Florida where we get this information. It's a huge story. And then, yeah, it's just, wow. Jaden Rashada's first payment was scheduled for December 5th, 2022 for $500,000 as a signing bonus. Okay. He never got the money, and he got a letter basically terminating his contract, which is fine. Okay. I want to make that clear. In that contract, the Gator Collective, which is no longer around, obviously, the Gator Collective had every right to void the contract at any time they seen fit. Okay. And they did it. Like, they took advantage of their option, because basically they were just like, hey, this is stupid. We're not going to do it. Right. So there's that. And what also stems from this, and where it gets really murky, is that Jaden Rashada alleges that after that contract was voided, the people he's suing still told him, hey, we'll still give you that money even without a contract from them. We'll just get it to you in different ways. And so that's what he's alleging. Again, you have to prove things. And also, this is like, I'm so interested to see how this works. I'll get to the damages thing in a second. I'm so interested to see how this works out because technically you're not supposed to sign an NIL deal until you're signed or on campus. These deals were obviously placed way before he signed. And so I'm curious to know what happens to it because if you prove it right and you win the lawsuit, do you lose eligibility for it being proven that you signed a contract before you were supposed to? Like, and again, this is just going to be a thing with NIL. Like, it's going to be a wild time, wild trip. I'm just curious to see how it shakes out. But the damages part of this is that, yeah, okay, Ben, that's another. Ben said, I just can't see Napier calling a kid and promising $1 million. I also can't see that. That just doesn't seem like even if, like, not even saying, oh, like, coaches don't do shady things. Just doesn't seem like he would do something that's stupid, right? Which, again, even if it was recorded, can't be used in court. Can't be admissible in court. If that conversation happened and was recorded, it's inadmissible in court unless Billy Napier knew about it. So there's that. I'm curious if that conversation was recorded and if that conversation came out but was inadmissible in court. I would think that Florida can still use it to fire with cause because it's like, hey, you're tampering. Like, it's not illegal because it's not admissible in court here, but you're tampering. But then again, if he took them to court, they'd have to prove he was tampering, and can't do that. So I'm just, it's going to be a lot of things that are just hypotheticals, and some information we'll get, some information we won't, and we're never going to get 100% of the story. Like most things, really, we're never going to get 100% of the story. That's just how things work. But I'm curious to see how it goes out. But the damages, Jaden Rashada is suing for $9.5 million in damages because of his NIL deal with Miami that he had when he committed in June 2022 to them. When he initially committed, it was to Miami in June. And basically, he had agreed to that $9.5 million. Florida continued. And I didn't like how the article was like, oh, even after he agreed and committed to Miami, Florida didn't stop pursuing him. Yeah, that's called recruiting. Like that's a thing that, yeah, no duh. But also, yeah, I think that's a justifiable lawsuit there in that branch of it of, hey, I was supposed to get $9.5 million from Miami. You told me I'd get $13.85 million, and then you yanked it out from underneath me. But also, that seems, considering you're doing, it's shady business regardless of NIL before signing, like it's going to be a gray area. That seems like you kind of just lost. Like it seems like you just lost, like, because it's one of the reasons that I don't like bet with fans or like people on Twitter. I don't do that because, one, I don't trust you to pay me, and two, I'll get better or maybe even worse odds on FanDuel, but I know that they'll pay me. And so it's like, you chose to do business with someone and you lost. Like, that's just part of the business. But also, he's a kid. I'm like just so thrown by this, just because there's so many things that we're never going to get the answers to, and it drives me absolutely crazy. But yeah, here it is that Napier allegedly personally vouched to Rashada that Florida alumni were good on their promise that Jaden would receive $1 million if he signed with UF on National Signing Day, and Hathcock would make the payment. Harlan Rashada, who we know is a money-grabbing garbage bag, texted Zager, who is Jaden Rashada's lawyer. Coach Napier said Hathcock's on a plane and that he will wire $1 million. He wants the paperwork, and I'm sending it to you if you are good. Or I'm sending it if you are good. And again, a lot of this is going to be they allegedly said this, allegedly did this. Not sure how it's going to work as far as lawsuits go. Because also, I'm not sure how it works where Florida's like both sides need to consent to be recorded. I'm not sure how it works if they're on the phone. Like if Jaden Rashada is on the phone in Cali, I don't know what Cali is. So if he's on the phone in Cali, I'm not sure how that one works. If he gets to record that, and it doesn't matter about where Napier is, because Rashada's in a spot where he can do that. I'm not entirely sure, but it's just wild. I don't see this leading to Billy Napier's firing. I just don't, because again, even if he was recorded, Florida's two-part, like you need to have both parties consent to it. I highly doubt he was like, yeah, no, you could just record my conversations. So I'm very curious to see, because even if it was recorded, it's inadmissible in court. And if it's inadmissible in court, I know that we go, oh, it's which also, this is the court of public opinion. This is a horrible look. Regardless of what anybody says, this is a horrible look. Even on this morning's episode of Locked On Gators, I was talking about FanDuel's lines. I was like, publicly, Florida just takes a bunch of L's in the national media perspective. They do. It's another one. Florida just takes a bunch of national media L's, and this is another. That's how things work. But yeah, I think that even if they did have a recording, like we could say, oh, like, we don't need legal proof for Florida to fire Billy Napier there. But if they go, oh yeah, like we know you were tampering, and then he sues them, and then they go to court, and that same thing is inadmissible. I really don't know how this goes. And this is something like it just dropped before I went live. It came out like 10 minutes before I went live. I read the article and I was like, okay, let's go live. Let's do it. But this is just absolutely wild. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but again, I don't think it's going to lead to Billy Napier getting fired for cause. It's just how it is. I do think that Florida needs to do a significantly better job of just handling things just in general. Because again, constant public perception L's, but man, wild time to be a Florida Gators fan. And yeah, I'll see if there's more relevant information to talk about for tomorrow's show, and then we'll see how that goes. But man, thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find out where I work with Giants Country at NFL 33, and I'll see you all next time.